May 2023. The Strait of Gibraltar. A Swiss sailboat called the Champagne is crossing calm water, 16 meters long. Captain Werner Schaufelberger at the helm. He has made this crossing dozens of times. Everything feels normal. The sky is clear. The sea is flat. The engine is running smoothly. Then, a thud. Not a small one. A deep, heavy impact. The kind that travels through the entire hull and into your chest. Schaufelberger grabs the radio, checks the instruments. Nothing unusual. Then it happens again. Harder this time. He looks over the side and freezes. 3 orcas, massive, silent, moving with purpose, not curious, not playful. Working, the largest one dives. Disappears under the boat and then, from below, rams the side of the hull. The 2 smaller ones go straight for the rudder. Schaufelberger watches something he can barely process. The small ones aren't acting randomly. They are copying the large one, move for move. Technique for technique. Like students watching a teacher. In 15 minutes, the rudder has 2 holes in it. The quadrant is completely broken off. The boat can't steer. Water is coming in fast. The crew sends a distress signal. The Spanish Coast Guard arrives. The crew is rescued. The Champagne is towed toward the port of Barbate. It never makes it. It capsizes at the entrance to the port and sinks. And as the rescue operation unfolds, Schaufelberger says one thing. He says the 2 smaller orcas were learning. He watched it happen in real time. They were being taught. Now, most people heard this story and moved on. Wild animals, unpredictable ocean, tragic accident. But here's what nobody told you. This wasn't the first time, and it wasn't the last. Since 2020, there have been over 500 recorded interactions in this region. 500 documented cases, logged, studied, cross-referenced. And in every single one, the behavior is identical. They ignore the hull. They ignore the people screaming on deck. They don't make a sound. They go straight for the rudder. Always the rudder. Think about what that means for a second. The rudder is not the biggest part of a boat. It's not the most visible. A confused or frightened animal wouldn't instinctively go for it. But a strategic one would. Because without the rudder, you can't escape. In criminal investigations, when a perpetrator always attacks the same way, we call that a signature. This isn't random. This is a choice, and every trail of evidence leads back to one individual. Her name is White Gladis. White Gladis is a female orca, a matriarch. In orca society, the females lead everything. They hold the group's history. They make decisions. They pass knowledge down through generations. When researchers first documented White Gladis, they noticed something immediately. Scars, deep ones, fresh ones, not the kind that come from fighting, the kind that come from rope, from fishing line pulled too tight, or a boat moving too fast. Something had hit her, or caught her, and it had left a mark. Not just on the body. Here's where the science stops being comfortable. Researchers have spent decades studying orca. Brains, the part that handles emotions, pain, fear, loss, anger, is in orcas not just present. It's bigger than ours, more developed, more complex. When something traumatic happens to an orca, it doesn't process it and move on. It stores it. Every detail, every sensation, every association. So, when White Gladis sees a boat now, she doesn't see a vessel. She sees what hurt her, every single time. But here's the moment where this story changes completely. White Gladis didn't keep that to herself. She went back to her group, and she started teaching. Not with language, but with something more powerful. Demonstration. She showed the young orcas the shape of the rudder. She showed them exactly where to hit, how hard, how many times. And she showed them the most important rule: stay silent. Because noise brings humans to the deck, and silence keeps the advantage. The young ones watched, and they copied. When they had their own calves, they taught them too. One traumatized matriarch turned her pain into a doctor. She didn't just survive what happened to her. She made sure no one ever had to go through it alone. October 2022, the coast of Morocco. A yacht called the Grazy Mama to encounter a pod of orcas. Same behavior, same target, same silence. The orcas interact with the boat for 45 minutes, bumping the rudder repeatedly until it breaks and the hull starts leaking. No humans are harmed. March 2023, Portugal. A sailing boat participating in a coastal race is hit 3 times in under 10 minutes. The crew films it on their phones. When marine biologists analyze the footage, they confirm it immediately. Same technique, same precision, same silence. But these orcas had never been seen near Gibraltar. They had never been documented in the same waters as White Gladis. They had never met her, and yet they knew exactly what to do. That's the question that changes everything. How does a behavior travel thousands of miles between orca groups that have never met with perfect precision? Scientists have been trying to answer that since 2021, and the honest answers, they don't fully. No, what they do know is this: orcas communicate through clicks and calls that travel for miles underwater. Each family group has its own dialect, sounds specific to their pod. Like a language only they speak, but dialects don't cross between groups, so the information isn't traveling through sound alone. Something else is happening. Some researchers believe it's convergent behavior, meaning the conditions in the ocean have become bad enough that multiple groups independently arrived at the same conclusion. Too many boats, too much noise, too many fishing lines, different orcas, same enemy, same solution. Think about that. Not one rebellion, a species-wide response. And if that's true, White Gladis didn't start this. She just went first. Here's where humans decided to fight back. And here's where it gets embarrassing. Sailors started deploying acoustic devices, machines designed to emit sounds painful enough to drive orcas away. The orcas ignored them for 3 weeks. Then they adapted. They learned to recognize the sound, and instead of avoiding it, they started using it as a signal. The sound meant a boat was nearby. We built them a dinner bell. Then sailors tried throwing sand into the water to disrupt the orca sonar, the biological system they used to navigate. It worked for approximately 2 encounters. By the 3rd, the orcas were swimming through the sand clouds without slowing down. They had recalibrated. Researchers documented one case off the coast of Spain where a crew deployed every deterrent they had: acoustic devices, sand, loud music, flares. The orcas took 11 minutes to disable the rudder, their fastest time recorded. We didn't slow them down. We gave them a training session. Now, I want you to think about something. We talk about this story like it's an animal attack, like it's a threat to be neutralized. But let's look at the actual evidence. White Gladis was injured by a boat, or a fishing line attached to a boat. She survived. She processed what happened. She developed a response. That response, in 5 years, has never once seriously injured a human. Not one documented case of a person being hurt in these interactions. The orcas disable the boat. They don't touch the crew. Think about what that level of precision requires. They could hurt the people. They are large enough, powerful enough, smart enough to know the difference between a hull and a human in the water. They choose not to. They target the machine. There's a researcher named Dr. Renodi Stephanus who has been studying these interactions since they began. In 2023, he said calling these attacks is the wrong word entirely. What we are witnessing, he argued, is not aggression. It is play. Specifically, it is play behavior that started with one individual and spread through social learning. But here's the part that should stop you cold. In Orca society, play is how young orcas learn survival skills. So if this is play, what are they learning to survive? Let's go back to the beginning one more time. May 2020, first documented interaction. One orca, one boat, near the Strait of Gibraltar. Researchers noted. File it. Move on. By the end of 2020, 40 interactions logged. By 2021, over 100. By 2022, the behavior appears off the coast of France, then Scotland, then Norway. By 2023, 500 incidents, 3 boats sunk. By 2024, the behavior is documented in waters where orcas had never shown this pattern before. The curve isn't leveling off, it's accelerating. The orcas involved in the earliest interactions were adults, the ones in the most recent cases. Many of them are juveniles, young orcas, who never experienced whatever White Gladis experienced, who are doing this because someone taught them, because it was passed down. So what is the final verdict? One injured matriarch, one lesson taught to one generation, and 5 years later, a behavior that has crossed boundaries. White Gladis didn't just react to what happened to her, she changed something permanent. Strait of Gibraltar used to be a passage. Now it's a checkpoint. If an animal can experience trauma, turn it into strategy, and teach that strategy across generations, what exactly separates that from civilization? Maybe the ocean was never ours to cross. Maybe we just assumed it was, and maybe, for the first time, something down there is disagreeing. She remembered, and she made sure they're all case closed. For now, the ocean is deeper than we think. If you want to keep going deeper, subscribe to Blue Shadow. Every week we open a new file. I'll see you in the next case.